He never imagined a routine drive home would turn into a nightmare. In the quiet of the night, with nothing but the hum of his engine, freedom seemed close, until flashing lights pierced the darkness. Within moments, he wasn't just a man heading home. He was a target. The officer's gaze carried more than suspicion, it carried judgment, fueled not by evidence but by skin. Orders were barked, fear tightened around him, and suddenly the world felt like it was holding its breath. This wasn't a stop for safety. This was a confrontation waiting to explode. But the officer didn't know who he was stopping. He didn't know the man in front of him had a badge too, one that carried power far beyond his own. And when that truth surfaced, it wouldn't just shatter the silence of that night, it would shake the very foundation of what it means to serve and protect. Because what unfolded wasn't just about one man with authority and another with a gun. It was about a system, a wound, and a question no one can ignore. When justice wears two faces, which one will we trust? This is the story of a moment that should never have happened, and the night that exposed it all. It was supposed to be just another night. Marcus, a dedicated FBI agent, had wrapped up a long day at the bureau, his mind already shifting toward home. For him, the badge wasn't just a symbol of authority, it was proof of the years he'd spent fighting to uphold justice, often in a system that didn't always see him as equal. But outside the walls of his office, he wasn't Marcus the agent. He was just. Marcus had driven these roads countless times, but tonight felt different. The steady hum of his engine was interrupted by the sudden glare of headlights in his rearview mirror. The patrol car followed close, too close, its presence impossible to ignore. He eased his foot off the accelerator, hoping it would pass. The air grew colder as the officer shoved him toward the hood of his car. Questions flew at him, accusations with no foundation. Where was he going? Why was he out so late? Was this his car? Each word was a reminder, this wasn't about the law. This was about control. Marcus kept his voice steady, resisting the urge to pull out his badge. Experience told him that sometimes revealing too much too soon only escalated things. But the officer wasn't easing up. His suspicion turned to aggression, his hand now gripping the holster. Then it happened. The officer drew his weapon, pointing it directly at Marcus's chest. The night froze. The street was silent, but inside Marcus's mind, alarms screamed. He raised his hands higher, every muscle tense, every thought focused on survival. The seconds stretched, unbearable. Marcus could see the officer's finger trembling near the trigger, his eyes burning with something. The superior's shadow stretched across the pavement as he approached. The officer's grip on the gun didn't waver, and Marcus's heartbeat only climbed higher. Because sometimes, power doesn't correct injustice, it reinforces it. And in that fragile space between hope and despair, Marcus knew the real test was about to begin. The gun never wavered. Its black barrel seemed larger than life, a ton. The chief's voice finally cut through the darkness. Put the gun down. It was firm, commanding. But the officer hesitated. His grip only tightened, as though convinced that pulling the trigger would prove his authority. Marcus's heart pounded harder. Was this it? Would his life end while his supposed protector stood watching? The standoff stretched, suffocating. Then, in one swift motion, the chief stepped forward, his hand clamping down on the officer's arm. The gun wavered, shaking in the air before being ripped away. In the next instant, the chief's hand moved to the officer's chest, grabbing the badge pinned there. With a sharp yank, the badge tore free, its metallic glint falling uselessly to the pavement. The sound echoed louder than the sirens in the distance, louder than Marcus's own heartbeat. It wasn't just a strip of metal hitting the ground, it was the collapse of a false shield. But for Marcus, the moment was far from over. Because no badge ripped away, no words shouted in anger, could erase what had just happened. The question burned inside him, unshakable. If this could happen to him, an FBI agent, what hope was left for those with no badge at all? The flashing lights eventually faded. The road grew quiet again. Marcus stood beside his car, shaken but alive, staring at the crumpled badge. That night would never leave him. The cold steel of the gun, the tremor in the officer's finger, the humiliating truth that his FBI credentials meant nothing in the shadow of prejudice, it all carved itself into his memory. He wasn't just a man who had survived a traffic stop. He was a man who had stared down the very system he had sworn to uphold, only to realize that the system didn't always protect its own. And that's